What's going on, y'all? Harry from Harry the Horse Barbecue here, and in this one, I am not horsing around with this restaurant brisket. We're gonna pick up and trim a brisket from my favorite barbecue joint here in the Northeast, smoke it just like how barbecue restaurants do on the offset smoker, and then we'll slice in to reveal the fattiest, juiciest, most perfect brisket that can easily hold its own in any barbecue joint. Wanna cook like the pros at home? Well, the horse has got your back. Let's get it.
Harry the Horse Barbecue.
Now, when it comes to barbecue in Texas, there are a number of joints that are making amazing barbecue on a regular basis. Up here in the Northeast, barbecue is not as common and not as well known. But there's one joint that's been popularizing barbecue here in the Northeast for the last 10 years, and that joint is Hoodoo Brown Barbeque. A barbecue joint so fly and so swaggy that they've got their own signature shoe. Now, shout out to my guys Tyler, Alan, Chris, and Cody. They let me come through to the restaurant to talk shop, pick their brains, play with the smokers, and just have a grand old time. So in this one, I'm gonna show y'all my interpretation of how they do barbecue right up here in the Northeast. So kick on back, and let's kick it over to when I trimmed up this brisket. So in order to make this brisket, we gotta go shopping for a brisket. Let's go. That'd be a big old beefy brisket. I picked up this brisket from my guys over at Hoodoo Brown. Shout out Tyler and Alan. I appreciate you guys giving me this Aurora Prime. It's gonna be a good one. So enough horsing around, let's get this brisket out of the pack. Ow. Now this Aurora Prime is exactly what they're using over at Hoodoo Brown. If you haven't been there, you gotta check them out. Their brisket is top tier quality. Head over to Connecticut, check out Hoodoo Brown, and let's trim this beast up. All right, we got this beautiful brisket out of the pack, and our first cut is going to be to take out this decal. That was a lot of decal. We're gonna give her a flip, and we're gonna take off the mohawk. Angle the knife, round her off. Sometimes with your mohawk, you get a big bundle of fat right here, so we're also gonna take that down. Now we're gonna give her a flip around, and we're gonna take off this treated edge right here. So y'all can see that exposed how much fat is actually on the top here, so we're gonna have to take that down.
That's a lot of decal.
At this rate, I'm gonna work the top of this fat and work it down to about 1/4 of an inch, just so it looks nice. All right, this brisket is looking great. You guys have seen me trim briskets a bunch of times on this channel. We're looking aerodynamic, nice amount of fat on there. Points looking great. These Hoodoo briskets always have a small flat, but we're looking pretty darn good. Well, it's been over 24 hours on this trim, and this brisket is looking great. Now, trimming and letting your brisket rest overnight is a common practice amongst a lot of different barbecue joints. Now, I decided to sort of breeze through the trimming process because one, you guys have seen me trim a bunch of briskets on this channel before. I actually trimmed up this brisket with the Dow Strong Valhalla series knife. So if you want to see my 5 easy steps to trimming a brisket, go check out that video. It's the same exact brisket, and it showcases that knife. Another fairly common practice is that joints are seasoning their briskets the night before they go on the cooker. It's gonna allow our brisket to dry brine just a little bit, adding a little bit more saltiness and saving us a little bit of time in the morning. So in order to do that, we gotta make a classic yet Hoodoo Brown inspired rub. So I'm gonna weigh out part of the ratios of this rub, and I'm going to volumetrically measure out parts of this rub. I'm gonna go in with about 8 ounces of kosher salt, and y'all have seen me use this plenty of times, this coarse black pepper, and we're going in with about 8 ounces of this coarse pepper. As you can see, when you weigh out the spices in your rub by weight, they are not the same. Now the other 2 components we're gonna weigh out volumetrically. We're going in with a 1/4 cup of granulated garlic and a 1/4 cup of granulated onion. And a capper, and give it a thorough mix around. And here it is, a Hoodoo Brown inspired, Texas barbecue inspired rub. I think it's gonna be an amazing seasoning for our brisket and create that ultimate Hoodoo style bark. So now let's get to seasoning this beast of a brisket. And there she blows, similar to yesterday, looking a little darker and drier on the surface. There is no harm and no shame in leaving your brisket uncovered in the fridge overnight. So we're gonna give this a flip around. So since we're in the market of that Northeast style, Texas style barbecue, instead of a classic mustard binder, I'm just gonna hit this with a little bit of a neutral oil. This is avocado oil, just a wee bit, and spread that around until it becomes tacky. Now again, this binder does not do much of anything other than help the rub stick. That looks sick. Let's season her up. I need a bowl for you, but I don't know what to do. And we're going down with a massive handful of this rub. Super even coverage, but I think this Hoodoo inspired rub with the salt, the pepper, the garlic, and the onion. Really basic, really old school, really traditional flavors there. I think it's gonna be hitting right. And at this rate, we can give her a flip around. Down with a little more oil, get that nice and tacky all over the surface, and now over the top. Oh yeah, that's the presentation side. That's looking beautiful. That coarse black pepper is gonna really build that crusty bark, attract all that smoke. The overnight rest with the seasoning is gonna allow that salt to penetrate, giving us a little bit of a saltier bite on this brisket. And I'm thrilled with how this brisket looks at the end of that seasoning process. So this Northeast inspired brisket is staying true to Texas roots with the salt, pepper, garlic. However, we're changing keys just a little bit by doing the coarse black pepper, the ratios and the measurements and the rub are a little bit different, and you're actually adding in that granulated onion, which not a lot of joints do. But we've got even coverage all over the brisket. That coarse black pepper adds for a nice crunch, a nice bite, and the rest of that salty savoriness of this rub is gonna seep in and deeply flavor this brisket overnight. One other major thing to note is that there's no seasoned salt here. Hoodoo is doing that Texas style meets Northeast style old school barbecue. No frills or fuss, no secrets, just good techniques, good execution, and staying true to the roots of barbecue. So this brisket's going back in the fridge for day 2 for an overnight rest while seasoned, and we'll throw it on the pit in the morning. So I'll see y'all in the AM. So to stay true to that restaurant style, Hoodoo style, Northeast style, I'm gonna be running the fire and the smoker in the most similar way possible to the way Hoodoo does it. Hoodoo's running some kiln-dried white oak. I've got white oak and some cherry. I'll try to keep it mostly white oak throughout the duration of this cook, but we're going Lincoln log style. But first, some snake nests. That should do her. Alright, y'all, it's early on in the AM and this cooker's getting up to about 225 degrees to mimic that restaurant style as best as I can. I'm looking to build a pretty big coal bed because cookers at barbecue joints are always running around the clock. And if y'all notice, I set the damper to about 3/4 of the way closed. Every time I roll through to Hoodoo Brown, their dampers on their 1,000 gallons and their 500 Mobergs are about 3/4 of the way closed, maybe even more. That's gonna keep our flames low, our coal bed stable, and it's gonna trap more heat inside the cooker, which is gonna slow the turbulence down of the air movement, and it's gonna hopefully allow us to build more smoke flavor and render more fat. But enough horsing around, let's get this brisket onto the cooker. Up and under. Okay. Woo, that's smoky. This beefy beauty's going on middle back of the cooker. Something about like that. We're gonna rock this brisket out at about 250 degrees for the majority of this cook. We'll kick up temps towards the end of the cook to push through the stall, but this brisket's gonna rock in that beautiful oak smoke for the next handful of hours to accumulate some amazing smoke flavor. And you already know that coarse black pepper is gonna build an amazing bark. The damper to the smokestack is set at about 3/4 of the way closed, and our fire's rocking low flames at about 250 degrees. So all we gotta do is close it down. Boom, shakalaka. As y'all saw, over the last 8 hours, all I did was maintain temps around 250 degrees, gave the brisket a spritz or two here and there, and I threw a couple chickens on because I'm cooking for a neighbor and I'm cooking for dinner tonight. So we've been staying true to that Hoodoo style. So let's take a look at this brisket 8 hours in and see what she's looking like. Boy, does that look familiar. I've seen the briskets being cooked over at Hoodoo a number of times, and I will say that looks pretty darn spot on. That fat cap is starting to get squishy. That coarse black pepper is getting roasty. Ooh, look at that fat. Can you see the way that squishes? Feeling a little firm around the flat. Got the tiniest bit of curl going on right there. Even on this point end, that fat is looking nice and squishy. So as I've been doing occasionally, just gonna spray this down with some apple cider vinegar. And pretty common practice around this stage in the cook is using foil tips, or as I like to call them, foil band-aids. Just taking a sheet of heavy duty aluminum foil, folding it over, and having the shiny side out to reflect the heat, because the goal of the foil tips is to eliminate any burning or attraction of heat to these specific locations. So we lift, slide, bandage her up, and we do the same on the point end. This way we don't crisp up the point too much and run the risk of it becoming grainy and dried out. And if your flat is lagging behind in temps, give your brisket a rotation about this time during the cook, around 7 or 8 hours or so. This will give your brisket time to even out during the cook, allow that flat to catch up in temp, gives that point a chance to relax just a little bit, and just allows for a lot more even cooking. So at this stage, all we gotta do is close her down. And at this stage, I'm gonna bump up temps on the cooker to about 275 degrees and try to crank out this brisket for the next about hour or so. And then we're gonna give it a classic paper wrap. Essentially, we're mimicking that Aaron Franklin style. But if you've been with me over the last 8 or 9 hours or so cooking this brisket, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let's wrap this beast up. And here is this beautiful brisket. The only issue I'm having with this cook is that some of that bark is definitely starting to flake off. See it here, and definitely here on the point as well. But other than that, the bark is a beautiful color, getting a little bend to it, but this is hitting about 180 degrees. Let's wrap this up with some butcher paper. Haven't done that in a minute. Now I already hit this butcher paper with some apple cider vinegar, but I'm gonna douse it quite a bit more. I'll hit the brisket while we're at it. And a beautifully tight paper wrap brisket. Perfect, you grab right under there, keeps it sealed, back onto the cooker. Man, this brisket took a long time. Hoodoo Brown claims that they cooked their briskets for about 16 hours, and I can see why. This big old mamma jamma took about 14 hours on the cooker. I pulled it when it hit an internal temp of about 198 to 200, and it was feeling bendy and squishy underneath all this paper. I let it rest on the counter for about an hour. Then I threw it into my oven set to about 150 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's been resting for about the last 18 hours. You don't need to go that long on the rest, it just works for my schedule. So enough horsing around, let's get her out of the bag and take a looky-loo. Just take a look at the bend. That might be a near perfect cook. Little wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. That's looking great. No frills or fuss with this one, no tallow for the shine, just classic, unfiltered Texas style barbecue in the Northeast at its finest. You can see this coarse black pepper has held up and helped create that amazing bark. Fat on top is feeling nice and rendered. Time to get that center cut. There is literally nothing wrong with that. Goodness gracious. Nice and yellow fat render up there. That lean side's looking equally as good. Try and get a little center cut lean action going on. Oops, that Aurora Prime is just too tender. That is just unreal. That overnight seasoning actually penetrates the brisket entirely. This thing is salted beautifully all the way through. I mean, if you got a lean slice that looked like this on your barbecue tray, I don't think you'd be mad at it. Plenty of fatty on top. That coarse black pepper is adding a ton of texture. All right, lean, we've seen enough. Let's bring in that fatty, get a little burnt end slice going here. This is that cut in a restaurant. If you've ever seen those guys kind of slice and rip something off the board, that's the rest of this fat, but that top piece, that is looking phenomenal. Chunk up a few burnt ends, and the tenderness of this brisket is just spot on. Now, is that the first slice of fatty, or is that technically the second? That looks great. Next slice in is equally as great. Ooh, man. And that's arguably the money shot of the brisket. Fat rendered. Let's try this out. Well, if you haven't seen it already, just look how beautiful that fatty section is. Oh my goodness. Look at that burnt end piece. Salty, super fatty. That just melts in your mouth. My goodness, that's ridiculous. Next up, a little bit of lean. Even the lean is incredibly tender, salty, still juicy. I mean, that tenderness is right on point. And I've been to Hoodoo a bunch of times, even helped out with their BBQ School. They make this bottom lean sort of underneath the fatty that's really undesirable in nature. They make it incredibly well because it's got incredible saltiness. It's got that bark. This upper fatty section just looks so nice. We'll get a little bite of this top piece. There's no way I can eat this whole slice of fatty. Maybe I was wrong. I think I could eat that whole slice of fatty. Oh my. I'm so used to having that crispy bark from doing foil boat. The paper wrap really mellows out that bark, but it's still got all that texture from that coarse black pepper. And if you haven't seen my homemade pickle video, I highly recommend checking that one out because you definitely need some pickles to cut through all the fat of this brisket. It's like the perfect complement. And this is just an outstanding brisket top to bottom. This is the literal brisket that Hoodoo Brown uses. Purchased it straight from those guys over at Hoodoo. Did my best interpretation of the most classic and notorious Northeast barbecue joint there is. If y'all think us in the Northeast don't know barbecue, then y'all are definitely horsing around. Myself, a few other joints here in New York, Hoodoo Brown is the top dog of the Northeast. I don't know what else to tell y'all except for stop horsing around and make this already. Thank y'all for tuning in to Harry the Horse Barbecue. I really appreciate you checking out this video. Make sure you subscribe for the vibes, hit a like for Northeast Barbecue, and drop a comment with your thoughts on this brisket cook. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I'm posting new content, and you can follow me on Instagram at Harry the Horse Barbecue. Tag me so I can see what y'all are cooking because y'all inspire these cooks. And with that being said, there's only one more thing, y'all. This one is going straight to the horse's mouth. We'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace. Put some respect on our name here in the Northeast.